Thank you very much for pressing red and joining us here on our all-new F1 forum. And to be honest, I can't blame you for pressing that red button. What an incredible race, what an incredible start to the season. David Coulthard, Eddie Jordan are alongside me, and we have an awful lot to discuss. But before that, in case you missed anything from that quite remarkable last hour and a half, here is a quick rerun of the Australian Grand Prix 2009.
We're away in Melbourne for 2009. It's Jenson Button, and an awful start there by Rubens Barrichello. Jenson Button streaks forward. Vettel's there as well. Masters trying to come through on the outside as well. Rosberg's up in close attendance as well, up into third place. Well, there is Francis Kubica has come back as well. Dreadful start for Rubens Barrichello. There's all sorts of mayhem at the first corner. Oh, and there's a problem here for that's Heikki Kovalainen. Problem there. Now, where did that happen? Okay, Heikki Kovalainen in real trouble. Well down the field. Heikki Kovalainen. He started 12th, as new front wing for Mark Webber as well. It's all going off here.
Yeah, it was just around where Barrichello ended up in the first corner. And here we go then with a replay. Button with the perfect start, and I'm sure Barrichello there with the anti-stall kicking in. I'll talk about that later. Look at the two Ferraris menacingly inside and outside, and just behind that, there's the squeeze. Heidfeld, Mark Webber, who then hits Kovalainen, and Alonso I think was in there too, and more contact further back with the Toro Rossos. This is from on board Rubens Barrichello, and well, the system just didn't work. He got brave when it was him that started it off. So it was Barrichello getting in to the side of Mark Webber, and Rubens doing all of the damage and getting away with it. He was the one who emerged from this carnage. And any damage, I wouldn't be at all surprised there's not some damage to the left rear either of Rubens Barrichello's car. So 7 or 8 cars caught up in that. Here we go again. This is Webber. You're about to see Barrichello barge into the side of us. I wonder if Barrichello is going to take a penalty for that avoidable accident. Bad weekend from McLaren. And Mark Webber gets all the luck. Unfortunately, it's just bad luck for him, it seems.
You need to get by him. It's a chance for the podium if you can get by him.
It's so difficult to overtake into that first corner, but he's done it. Look, he's just pushed his way through, and that was great driving from Rosberg, responding immediately then to the hurry-up that he had. And will Barrichello have a slither up the inside of turn 3 now? And he's trying, and he's slightly out of control, and he's going to whack the Ferrari. He lost the back of the car, and he's lost the corner of his front wing. That might not do too much damage. It was the bit that was hanging off anyway. So Rubens Barrichello wants to fight with everybody today.
That's Nakajima. Nakajima's had a big moment there. That's at turn 3 and 4. Nakajima into the wall. Now.
Debris on track, safety car, surely. That'll be a safety car. Here we go. This is turn 3 then with Nakajima, who is rather accident prone, it has to be said. And what's he going to do? Don't think that was his fault.
So we had safety car 3 times last year in the Grand Prix, and we've got it once now.
And where do you brake for the first corner when you don't know how much grip you're going to have when you get there?
Piquet's got off then.
He fell off by himself. He got frit a bit by Kubica, but he actually just fell off the track. He's going to hit, he's going to touch the brakes, and because he's got so little grip...
The brakes just went crazy and I spun.
Well, thank you. Said it for me. Into the wall. There's Raikkonen, Raikkonen into the wall, and has he damaged the right front? Where he goes, just dropped it under acceleration. Kimi Raikkonen takes himself out of the action. One in the wall and puts himself back to 16th, and Massa
takes a shortcut,
heading towards retirement.
Now Barrichello and Rosberg, wheel to wheel now as they go through on that far side of the track.
It's bumpy into the turn, then Barrichello steams through. Gone deep. Yeah, he's got a good run out of him now. Vettel went very deep indeed. He's kept track position though, and he'll just... Oh, he's braked early. He's braked very early. There's going to be contact there, surely.
Oh, yes, there is. There goes Kubica, and there goes Vettel. That's the last thing they needed to do. Vettel's lost his front wing, and Jenson Button will be romping clear now. That's the last thing they needed. You are spot on. There was contact and there's problems, big problems. Oh, there's Vettel.
That's...
Alex Kubica gone as well.
Yeah, damaged right front, left front, and that's fallen off.
Here's the man who didn't know he had a team, didn't know he had a drive, who's now going to take victory in Melbourne. Jenson Button crosses the line, takes the checkered flag. Jenson Button's a winner again. Brawn GP are winners on their first race appearance, and not only that, it's a 1-2 finish. Button from Barrichello. The smiles are on Ross Brawn and Sir Richard Branson. I don't think we need to say anything. This is wonderful for Brawn GP. Just what Formula One needed in a sense. Out of top 2008, a new team, a new winner, and a 1-2 finish.
Well, it's fantastic to see those pictures, isn't it? And here we are now, relaxing and calming ourselves down at the Force India motorhome. Well, all winter they talked about improving the show, gentlemen, and certainly today the show was improved and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great Grand Prix to watch. Obviously, the safety car played its part in keeping all the pack bunched together, but action-packed right to the end. And obviously, Kubica and Vettel are going to be fighting over that turn 3, because, you know, points at this stage of the season is probably more valuable than obviously coming together like that.
You know, if this is an indication of what the season has in front of us, I think we'll have a lot more viewers looking at this particular season, because it's just, it's fairy tale. We talked about it yesterday. You just dream about occasions like this. You could never have scripted it. All the unpredictable things have happened. Even at the very last moment where Barrichello looked like not making the podium, and then he sneaks in and the two boys in front of him collide with each other. So it was a fairy tale. It was a sort of a script made in heaven, so to speak, because it was so unusual.
It was certainly a script made in heaven for Ross Brawn, the team owner of Brawn GP, and we can hear from him now. Here's his reaction to his drivers finishing first and second.
Ross, silverware in hand, just how does it feel to, after this roller coaster of emotions, I imagine, over the winter, how does it feel to be race winners?
Stunning. I mean, just absolutely stunning. And with everything that everything all our staff have been through, just sensational. And I can't really put it into words. So.
And the way that Jenson drove from a lights to flag finish as well, very impressive.
Yes, I mean, it wasn't that easy. There were times when you know, we were having to look after things, and of course reliability was a worry because we hadn't done a race distance until today. So, but 2 cars to the finish, and Rubens had a problem with at the start, which meant he picked up some damage, and car wasn't in great shape, but just unbelievable.
You must be delighted. There's only 7 days to Malaysia.
Yeah, well, it doesn't get much better than that today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, Ross Brawn has certainly walked around with a smile on his face all weekend, but he's actually been quite calm, hasn't he? While everyone else has been running around Brawn GP, he's been standing in the middle, taking all this in his stride.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. You know, he goes back a long way. Benetton, Ferrari, and sports cars before that with Jaguar. He's got a winning DNA, so he's seen it all before.
I don't think that's calm. We've just seen the pictures. In my time, and I know him going back to the mid-70s, I've never seen this man, and he has achieved everything. But there was always that little sting in the tail. He achieved it because of Michael Schumacher. He hasn't this time. He's achieved it by himself, with his team, with his colleagues, and with his drivers. This is a new era for him. You saw him. He was completely charged there with emotion. And it's nice to see emotion, big-time emotion in sport, because that's what brings us back.
Of all the things that Ross Brawn has achieved in motorsport, will today rank as the greatest?
Yeah, absolutely. To win with your name on the front of a Grand Prix car, I just can't imagine it gets any better than that. And there's such a feeling of, even though this is the former Honda team, they've come here on a very much reduced budget. They've come here with, you know, a smaller paddock setup. They've only got 2 catering staff here, you know, to give you an example of how they've made cutbacks to be able to get to the start of the season. So I think it really brings it back probably to the sensations that Eddie would have in the days when he was the underdog small Grand Prix team.
But that's probably helped him here, David. He arrived here with, if you like, no expectation. A very good testing time, but people were curious. Were they underweight? Were they carrying the fuel? All of these aspects that, you know, people like to ridicule or check out. Let's see what he'll do on the track. but he did do it on the track, and you just couldn't have said it in any better way than he has done it.
OK, well, it's not just ladies that throw themselves at DC's feet, is it? We can now hear from Andrew Shovlin, the race engineer for Jenson Button. Just so you know.
Well, Andrew, they say an engineer lives the same life as his driver, so how difficult's it been over the winter, and how sweet is the feeling now?
Well, it's been hard work, and obviously the uncertainty's been difficult for everyone, but just fantastic, unbelievable result, and we couldn't have wished for anything more. We couldn't have achieved anything more.
Talk us through the race, because it wasn't straightforward by any point of view. Vettel was fast. You had to watch out for the Ferraris as well.
I think we were probably closer than we thought we were going to be, and then at that last stop we stopped early just to cover for a safety car. Just a bit concerned with Kubica on the last few laps and looking after the options, because we saw how quickly they went away.
What happened in the second pit stop? Did the guys not quite get the nozzle on right?
I think he didn't get it quite on the marks and then didn't get the nozzle on. So we were looking like we had a bit of margin, and then that was a bit close for comfort. So, no, just a big relief to get over the line in first.
And was Jenson fuel to the finish then? I mean, or did you need to put just a little slug of fuel in?
Well, the last stint we only had to do about 10 laps, but we went fuel to the end.
Have you allowed yourself to think of where you go from here, Shov? You know, a lot more races to go, and you've got a very good car.
Well, just take it one race at a time, do as well as you can.
Okay, well, enjoy today. Well done.
Well, I'm pleased to say that Martin Brundle's joined us now. Martin, you first started commentating with ITV in 1997, and all your time in the commentary box. Do you remember a race as emotional and as special as that?
Well, there have been a few where the World Championship was at stake or something like that. Never seen a fairy tale like this in terms of the unexpected, you know, just days and weeks ago. These guys were not expecting to be here, let alone be competitive, let alone win the Grand Prix, and then a 1-2, for goodness sake. I hope that doesn't get negated in a court of appeal or something on the 14th of April. And we've got all that to go through yet. So either, you know, they'll have to, with these diffusers and what have you, but let's hope that doesn't get in the way of a great story for Formula One.
OK, well, let's take a look at some of the prime moments from the race, and let's start cleverly at the start. And DC, not the way that Rubens Barrichello would have imagined this getting going.
No, absolutely not. You know, I can't imagine he had any problem getting his RPM set correctly. That could have been a clutch issue in terms of just when the clutch started to bite. Of course, there's no connection between the back of the steering wheel and the clutch itself. And the predictable happened at the first corner. There was just too many cars fighting over the one line, and obviously that was affecting my old team, and teammate Mark Webber was right in the middle of it there. Rubens damaged his front wing, and you can see Heidfeld going for a spin across the grass.
I tell you what I hadn't seen in commentary is just what a shove Rubens got. It looked like he tried to make up ground having had a bad start, and he was very hot down into the first corner, and that all looks a bit too hot. But then he got a really big shove, if you see it from another angle, from what must have been Kovalainen.
Yeah, when you look here, Mark on board with him. Now, Mark actually is leaving his manoeuvre here with Heidfeld a bit late, and then he gets exactly the same situation from Rubens. And quite frankly, on that short apex first corner, it was always going to end in tears when three cars trying to go for one line.
Well, 3 into 1 never goes, does it?
Well, for me, that accident, first of all, Rubens never had a real chance. It was very dirty on the inside of the track. He didn't quite get it off the line quick enough, and he got swamped. Having said that, I'd like to have his car for the rest of the season, because he clattered everything that was possible to clatter, and he finished second. 99% of the cars that I've ever been involved in would have been in the pits.
I wonder if that's a Ross trait. If you remember back to Michael at Ferrari, he was always able to hit things and the car would stay together in a way that the McLaren, when I was there, you know, we just looked at a curb and the front wing would fall off. So is that something, you know, Martin, you've worked with Ross going way back to sports cars. Is that something he engineers into the cars?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's very aware you've got to get to the end of the Grand Prix before you're going to get any points. That's where they hand the points out, isn't it? And I did work with him through the sports car days at Jaguar. And a lot of teams went for the very light cars, didn't they? Light suspension, absolutely everything to the minimum, to have the maximum amount of ballast to move around, to fine-tune the handling of the car. And I think they realised that one little touch, I mean, some of the McLarens you drove, as you said, one little touch and the front wishbone was broken, or the steering arm or something, and you're going home, aren't you?
Well,
and
the wing would
that's
fly
one
off
tough car.
Immediately. And, you know, that's what happens with more of these cars. But Ross has built a very sturdy one here, and it looks amazing. Not just is it quick, but it's reliable, finishing 1-2, and it's also a tough little car.
OK, well, we've seen the start based around Rubens Barrichello and Jenson Button. Unusual for Jenson to be at the front, unusual for Lewis to be at the back. Let's have a look at his onboard.
Well, I'm expecting to see a fairly impressive start when he pushes the curves button. Get that extra 80 horsepower, of course, as he runs down to the first corner. Actually not passing as many cars as I would have expected. You can see being a bit cautious there in the outside line, expecting there to be some trouble. Very cautious, actually, from Lewis, and that's obviously paid off, because there you go, he's picking up 3 or 4 positions. He's going to pick up another one here when Piquet obviously has come together with another car, and unusually a car running slowly down on the right-hand side there, but down into turn 3, he's on the outside. Actually, little mistake there. Paid the price, lost the place to probably, is that Alonso or Piquet in the Renault? Bit difficult to tell there, but nonetheless, that goes down as a good start.
How would you rate Lewis's drive today, to start where he did and finish in 4th?
Well, I thought he looked like he came alive for the first time this weekend. His chin's been on the ground, hasn't it? And he's been a bit of a sad puppy. And you haven't the magic of Lewis, you know, backing the car into the corner and really attacking the racetrack. Hasn't happened until midway through the race. He just suddenly came alive and realised he could get some points, and look, the season's underway. I'm interested to know how he ended up back behind Trulli again, because for sure the official timing screen was showing him up in 3rd place. I don't know if you guys had a chance to speak to anybody while I was walking over.
Okay, well, it's funny that you should mention that, because we can actually hear from Martin Whitmarsh now. He can explain to us precisely what happened with Lewis Hamilton and Jarno Trulli.
Well, Martin, I spoke to you at the beginning of the race. You said you'd be satisfied with a point.
Mark?
You've got more than that.
Mark?
Yeah, no, Lewis did a great job, so did the team. It was a great stop at the end. In fact, there's some debate about whether it's the 3rd place at the moment, given that Trulli fell off and then repassed under a safety. But anyway, whatever, it was a solid result, and you know, obviously it relied on a bit of attrition. We know the car's not quick enough yet. We've got to do a lot more work. We'll be doing that in the coming races, but Lewis and the team did a great job in the circumstance today.
Okay, so just explain that at the end. What happened? Because I'm not sure we saw that. Why isn't Lewis 3rd?
Well, at the end, under the safety car, Trulli fell off onto the grass, and Lewis had no choice but to go past him. He's not on the racing circuit. Trulli then retook the place under a safety car, which ordinarily you wouldn't do. So I know that the FIA are looking at it at the moment, and doubtless will have a ruling in due course.
Okay, but you would normally expect then Lewis to be given that place, and it could be 6 points.
We would. That's our position at the moment, but we'll see what happens in the coming minutes or hours.
Okay, obviously you've still got the car that you've got, but this does give you a real boost for the championship, knowing that neither Ferrari did particularly well today.
No, we're ahead of Ferrari, so that's a good start, and our good friends there. But you know, I think Ferrari and ourselves, we need to regain our form and make sure that we're competitive. I'm sure both teams will be working very hard in the coming races to make sure we've got a quicker car.
And a Mercedes won the race.
No, it's a great result. You've got to, you know, Jenson did a great job, and Brawn GP, a fantastic job. You know, they are class of the field at the moment, and congratulations to them. And you know, great for Mercedes, and certainly better than BMW's winning, I'm sure, from their perspective.
Just quickly on Brawn, I mean, they have been the story of the weekend. Did you ever have any problems or any thoughts of not giving them an engine, and even though it was very last minute?
No, I think, and I think if you speak to them, we put a lot of effort into getting them here, and it's a testament to what FOTA can do to try and keep teams in Formula One. All power to them. They've done a good job. It's a competitive sport. We've got to beat everyone, and they've done a fantastic job. You know, for 16 months, so developing that car, it was a great strategy. We were away fighting a championship, but you know, now during the course of this year, race by race, we've got to get stronger. We've got to return to the form. So today was a great racing team effort with a car that's not really quick enough and didn't deserve to win those points. And you know, we're going to be scratching around, I'm sure, improving the car, but also just trying to race as we can to get as many points as we can in these early races until we can make our car truly competitive.
Thanks, Martin.
Well, McLaren have been very good at managing expectations at this opening Grand Prix, telling everyone that would listen that the cars aren't going to perform very well, they're not going to get through to Q2. Or how happy will Martin Whitmarsh be, do you think, with the result today with Lewis Hamilton?
Well, I think he'll be delighted with that, because they weren't playing down their performance. They had a poor performance in qualifying. We saw that terrible grid position to start, obviously compounded by the gearbox issue that Lewis had. But that's exactly the sort of results that you can pull out when you have safety cars, and we've seen it time and time again in Melbourne. You know, I started 12th here and was able to win the race in 2003, and I didn't go into that Grand Prix thinking I could really win.
I think the big thing for Martin Whitmarsh, if he's honest about it, he had no chance of winning this race. And the fact that there has been no points scored by Ferrari, he knows that they are his big opposition long term, or that's what he believes. That may not be accurate, but that's what he believes. So for them not to score any points, and whether Lewis is third or fourth, we're not going to go through that at this moment, but it's a major result for McLaren.
It's worth a mention, though. Martin wouldn't be drawn on how he sees this going, but Ted said he would expect that Lewis is going to be given back third place. What would you expect to happen there, Martin?
I'd have thought it was a slam dunk. If he, I mean, Lewis is not obliged to wait. It depends how far he went off the track, really, but Lewis is not obliged for him to wait to sort himself out on the grass there. We did see the Toyota go on the grass, actually. I don't know which one it was towards the end of the race there, but if he's repassed under the safety car, under the yellows, I'd have thought he'll get disqualified or at least have to give the place back. And the other thing, of course, with Lewis's third place is, don't forget, Vettel and Kubica went into self-destruct mode as well. So the cards fell for them, but, you know, Lewis still got the job done.
There's been a lot of talk about how Lewis will fare not being in a car that's at the front of the grid. Is today the first indication of the fact that he's a driver still with a bit between his teeth?
He's a racer, you know, he's always been a racer, so he's going to take the opportunities as they come. He made good use of his KERS system when he was at the safety car restarts, so obviously he was able to make some passing manoeuvres there. And he can only drive the car that he's got, so clearly in the first 2 years of his career that was more than capable of challenging for victories and a championship. At the moment, that's not the case.
OK, well, we talked about Rubens Barrichello having an indestructible car. Let's take a look at another moment for him and what was a rather eventful start to this Grand Prix.
Yeah, running down into, I think it's the first corner here, and you can see manoeuvre. That was a very clean manoeuvre. Actually struggling to see from my position here what's going on. OK, so the run down to turn 3 here, we're on board with Rubens. And I actually think this is quite a late attempt at an overtaking. This reminds me of my own attempt at trying to get down the inside of Warts a couple of years ago, but obviously that's cost him, gained a position, but it's cost him a bit of his front wing. Here we can see it from another angle. Actually looks like he lost the rear end a little bit through that last part of the braking phase, and then he's just lost some of the front wing end plate we can see rolling down the circuit. And once again here, again the little wiggle from the rear, and just hitting his front wing on the rear wheel there.
This, for me, Rubens was completely wrong there. In the other incident, perhaps not so. I don't think he had a ghost in hell's chance of getting by. He's locked up. He's very lucky because he's actually using the Ferrari as a brake in many respects. And had that car not been there, I'm not sure he'd have got around the corner.
OK, well, I'm delighted to say that Vijay Mallya has decided to join us. After all, we are entertaining ourselves in front of his little area here at the circuit. Vijay, thank you very much. 10th and 12th today. Just give us your reaction to how you thought the Grand Prix went.
Well, you know, I have every reason to be satisfied. We started building this car only in November. We've had 120 days exactly to design and build this car after we signed our agreement with McLaren Mercedes. And we've had only 8 days of testing, of which 2 days was completely rained off. So very little design and build time, very little testing time. We were worried about reliability, which we have proven today. Both cars finished the race without mechanical problems. That's a big relief and a positive step forward. Now we're going to focus on aerodynamic development and being more competitive.
So bearing all of those factors in mind, how pleased are you with the way the race went today?
Well, you know, I mean, I was here last year, and the way the race panned out last year was a little more chaotic than what we saw today. But it was a good race, and I think everybody enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, and as I said, I'm very satisfied about reliability and the way we finished.
How much technology can you get from McLaren? How much help did you get with them? I know they parachuted 1 or 2 guys in to help you, but back end of the car?
Well, you know, the entire drivetrain is a combination of McLaren Mercedes and the hydraulics as well. We also have the KERS package, but you know, we are allowing McLaren to develop it and see how it goes before we install the KERS package onto our chassis. The chassis is equipped for KERS, and so we're targeting Barcelona. But apart from that, the help that we get from McLaren has to sort of conform to the definition of constructors in the Concord Agreement, and we're fully compliant. So I think it's a good package. Clearly, it's helped in our reliability. And we have a set of bright young engineers back in Silverstone, and I think they're capable of producing a car that can be regularly in the points.
We saw, Vijay, during the race a little battle between your drivers there. Obviously, you allow them to race freely, even though points in this type of race could spring their way with a safety car race. What is your instruction to your drivers?
David, you're absolutely right. It's fair play all the way. We encourage them to be competitive, even amongst each other. There are no team instructions. And I was actually quite amused seeing them sort of battle with each other for a while. But having said that, we need to look ahead. We will be equally aggressive against other drivers, I might add. And I think it's a good start. I'm very satisfied.
I'd imagine Giancarlo Fisichella has to apologise to a few mechanics, yeah, coming down the pit lane and running into them.
Yes, that unfortunately wasn't the way we would like to have seen things, particularly with Giancarlo's pit stop. But having said that, you know, Adrian clipped his front wing early on in the race and had to come in and make 3 stops, despite which he finished 10th. And that only shows that perhaps with a little bit of better planning and without these mistakes, we could have been in the points today.
Well, Vijay, first of all, I'm delighted to be in my old home, so to speak, and thank you for the encouragement and bringing us here. But the point I wanted to make, you seem to have made a fairly significant jump, because the gap between where you were last year and, if you like, the main body of the racing group was much wider than where you currently are. So that must have given you something. 2 cars have finished. You're closer to the main bunch. With the diffuser, if you go that route, which I'm sure that you will, you can see yourself right there.
No, Eddie, I have to say that we are certainly aiming for points this year. We were late in the design and development and the build of this car because of the timing of the signing of the agreement for the engine supply particularly. But we certainly have points on our radar screen. As you know, we've made significant changes to the management structure back at Silverstone. We now have Simon Roberts seconded to us by McLaren, who really has sort of reorganized the team in a way that you would have had if you were still running it. But it's something that we're very proud of. And I look forward to some performance here now.
Fantastic. Vijay, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for the hospitality. And, you know, everyone's undergone a lot of change over the winter in Formula One, but you more than most. So best of luck for this season.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Enjoy.
Let's continue with our analysis of the race. And it ended under the safety car. A coming together that had you stamping the floor.
Well, obviously, my old team here, you can see Robert Kubica pulling to the outside of Sebastian Vettel, running down into turn 3. And just coming, you know, a little bit silly from them both, to be perfectly honest. There was plenty of space for them to make it round. Good points to be won at this stage of the season. They're battling over the podium at the end of the day, and you can see that not only have they had one mistake at turn 3, they've both then managed to have another crash as they go through the following high-speed corner. So very disappointing, actually, I think, in the way both drivers handled that situation, because it was very close to the end of the race. And I don't know what Martin's take on that might be, but I would have taken the points personally.
Absolutely. And my particular, I'll just put in before Martin comes in. For me, there's been no winner here. There's a lot of very sad faces, if you like, in Red Bull in particular, and of course BMW. There were points on the stage. I think this was a genuine mistake. I think his inexperience, Vettel should have let him. He made the mistake. He knew it was going to be confrontation. In my opinion, if I was the team boss and I was on the phone, I would have told him, let him go. But drivers don't like doing that, of course. But here's a situation. He drove into the side of him. I actually say it's probably 65% Vettel's problem here.
Well, if you're just re-looking at that angle, certainly Robert was squeezing in on Sebastian. He had to run up the curb, and obviously this is the aftermath. You can see his car's damaged and he's just got sucked into the barrier again. But very, very tight action.
An idiot. I'm sorry. I'm very, very, very sorry.
Well, you can hear Sebastian Vettel's take on the whole thing there, and he's an eminently likeable young man. He's an incredibly talented driver. That's an unfortunate way for him to start his career at Red Bull.
Well, yes, of course, he was the Red Bull driver that smashed into the back, the Toro Rosso driver that smashed into the back of Webber in the Japanese Grand Prix. When he makes mistakes, they're costly ones, but I called it 50-50 in the Grand Prix on the hoof, really, in the commentary, and I haven't seen anything there that changes my mind, really. I think they were both pretty stupid. Not just points they were looking at there, it was a podium, and not that you get any more points for that, but I think Kubica should have given him more space. It was clear that he was going to be at the apex when he turned in, and, you know, Vettel, should he have yielded? Had he lost the place? He had, really, but I think I'd still be a little bit disappointed in my driver if he just backed off and gave in too easily, but, you know, the immovable force met the irresistible object, or whatever they say.
I think 6 points would be the answer to Martin's question there. I'd be saying to myself, going home from here, 6 points in the bag, gives a cushion. Particularly Red Bull are not expected to be championship contenders. However, having seen this car today, Adrian Newey has built something very special, and maybe they could be. So, but at the same time, 6 points would have been very valuable. I think it's such a shame for those two drivers to have allowed the occasion overcome them.
And breaking news that we're getting is that Vettel and Kubica and Trulli and Hamilton are all seeing the stewards as we speak. We've discussed the Trulli and Lewis Hamilton moment. We think that'll go in Lewis's favour. Vettel and Kubica, what will they have to say about this?
Well, presumably they may get a penalty taken into the next Grand Prix. They can give them a grid penalty, or points on their licence, or a warning. Any number of things they can do now.
OK, well, let's now hear from Mario Tyson.
I don't think it was as bad as that. I don't think they're in any danger. I see nothing other than a racing accident.
Absolutely, it's too good. There's nothing outrageous about it, but who knows what penalties will be dished out. But that's what they can do. What they will do is another matter. And it was just two guys not ready to yield.
OK, well, let's now hear from Mario Tyson, team principal of BMW Motorsport.
Well, Mario, it's difficult to criticise Sebastian because I know he's a friend and he's an ex-BMW driver, and, you know, he's a mate and everything, but do you think that was his fault?
Well, when they braked early, and I thought this is a clear-cut situation now, and since I know him, I thought he won't do any silly things, but in this moment it had happened already.
I mean, he's very regretful, and you can understand that, his mistake, and he says he's going to apologise to Robert as well.
Well, it's been very disappointing for both drivers. We are very confident Robert had won the race because he had closed in on the hard tires. Both cars in front of him were heavily struggling on the soft tires. He was lapping about 2 seconds quicker. And, well, he lost probably a victory. Sebastian lost a podium position, and both teams lost valuable points.
Well, that's interesting you say that. We haven't heard that yet. You feel that he actually would have been able to get past the Brauns because we think they may have had a bit of performance in hand and they were just coasting to the flag.
They definitely had performance in hand on the car side, but they were struggling with the soft tires as well.
OK, but it gives you good cheer for the rest of the championship, though, Mario.
Yeah, well, the upside is that the car was really quick. Robert was lapping very quick, putting in very quick laps on the hard tires, and that shows that we are on pace, which is good for the coming races.
Thank you.
And just a few moments ago here in the paddock in Australia, you can see Sebastian Vettel speaking there with Mario Tyson, and I assume he's offering some kind of apology, which gives you an idea of the measure of the guy, DC.
Yeah, indeed. I think that Sebastian is a very open, straightforward and honest gentleman. We saw him take full responsibility in his previous mistake in Japan when he ran into the back of Mark Webber. He's obviously worked with Mario Tyson in the past as the young tester, and he scored his first points for BMW in his Formula 1 debut in America. So I don't think he's going to hide from his position.
I think he was a little ambitious there, to be fair. And I think if I was his team boss, and Martin and I have just had a little chat here, if I was Vettel's team boss. I don't think there's any due requirement for an apology. Martin, what's your take on that?
No, I don't think he needed to go and apologise.
It's a racing accident. Get on with it and stop this mess.
Yeah, but he doesn't lose anything by offering up that apology.
I'm sorry, I think you do, because this is about position, isn't it?
He's got a BMW car supply. He has a nice relationship with BMW. So
now you're getting commercial.
He's got to put food on the table as well, like anyone else.
This is racing. That's not an apologetic.
Wouldn't you have appreciated that gesture if it was one of your cars taken off the track?
No, I'd say it's a form of weakness. I'd say it's a form of weakness.
Yeah.
Would you see Michael Schumacher doing that? Not a chance. Alan Prost, Ayrton Senna, forget it. No chance.
You've got to get out of that and scream and shout that Kubica turned in on you. You've got to give him pain. I don't think you should give too much. He's just given his soul away. And of course, Mario Thiessen was his boss, his governor, put him on the map in many respects with BMW, but I do think he's had to give a bit too much away. Next time they're in a wheel-to-wheel situation, he's already down, isn't he, with that little manoeuvre.
The only reason you might do that, Martin, if that you have maybe a little signed contract somewhere in the drawer that's has a different date on it for some years from now, and that could be a consideration. You might then consider an apology, but certainly not from what we've seen.
Always thinking, isn't he, eh? He's always thinking.
In fairness, that's just exactly what I said, though. He has a relationship with BMW, so, we shouldn't hide from that fact, and I don't think there's anything to be lost. After the event, he's not showing a weakness, in my opinion. This is a guy who won from pole position in Italy last year in very difficult conditions. He's a tough cookie. He's just made a mistake. He's a young guy, and both him and Robert, I have to agree with Martin on this, have made mistakes here. Robert probably wasn't fully sighted as to where Sebastian was, and at the end of the day, they've lost a podium for themselves.
Okay. I think Mario Thiessen made an important point there, of course, that they were smelling victory in the Grand Prix. They knew they had the right tyres on. So Kubica was taking the gamble there because he was going for the win, not for second place.
Okay, well,
and he was also pumped. And he mentally probably thought that Vettel would give him the corner because he was in the prime position.
Okay, right, let's move this on. Let's talk about Ferrari. They've almost been overshadowed this weekend, both in quali and in the race. People have hardly been talking about them. And let's take a look at Kimi Raikkonen and talk us through this.
Yeah, well, obviously a rearward view here, running down towards the end of the lap, getting towards the last sector. And this is difficult for me to work out. He gets his rear wheel on the curb, and then it just seems to keep going. Now, I can't imagine that he's pushed curves at that point. Could be that he's losing temperature from the tyre. Obviously, afternoon race here, so track temperature is going down. But this is much further than the lap, actually. But here, coming back to the point, you can see.
Okay, we can now take a look at Felipe Massa, because of course this is a repeat of a year ago. Both Ferraris out of the race, as we had in 2008.
Yeah, disaster result for them. Not actually sure exactly what's gone wrong for him here, but one's obviously dropped it, and the other one's had a mechanical. So the same as we saw last year.
Let's have a mention of Kimi Raikkonen. Over the winter, many people were asking what went wrong with him. Why didn't he drive as well as he could last season? Where was his motivation? And no one really had an answer, Martin.
No, but when David and I were out on track on Friday morning, it was a different Kimi Raikkonen to the one we saw all last year. He just didn't appear to be, his batteries weren't fully charged last year for whatever reason. But didn't he get stuck in on Friday? And I have to say, if he hadn't have dropped it then, he was obviously pushing quite hard. He would have been right there at the end of the race when all the tyre issues played out. So he threw a massive result away there. And you're right, David, because it was the early part of the throttle, wasn't it? Whether the KERS were still kicked in, or I don't see why you do that there.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone drop it on the exit of that corner in that way before going down the years. So very unusual.
Yeah.
So let's hope we can get some feedback from him.
He's not the only one who dropped it this particular weekend. He'll be going home a very sad man, because he'll be saying to himself, God, I had such a great opportunity to pick up some valuable points, and what have I done? I've let Hamilton, who really is not a contender currently as the cars are, get the points on me, which he shouldn't have had. And I'd say he'll be very bitter about this and not at all happy.
And worth a mention of Felipe Massa. He can't afford a slow start to the season like he had last year if he's got designs on going one better and winning the world title this year.
No, but he was doing a solid job. I mean, he didn't score any points in the first two races last year, did he? Until he got to Bahrain, I think, where he got off the mark, and still he had a chance of the championship. But it remains to be seen what actually happened to the car. If they'll tell us, would be interesting to know. But clearly, it was a technical glitch. But what can you do? I mean, he drove well. I think they used their strategy off the grid pretty well with Kurz and the soft tyres, got them into the action, kept them out of trouble. Then they hadn't got the pace to do anything with it, but they'd got their pain out of the way and brought themselves into play, gambled on a safety car. That worked. And so I think they made the best of a bad job, except, as David said, one dropped it and the other broke.
OK, well, it's certainly been an interesting weekend for Brawn GP. Their first Grand Prix, Jenson Button will no doubt hog the headlines. But, of course, Richard Branson, well, he's timed getting in on the act just perfectly, hasn't he? He's now talking to Ted.
Yes, just Sir Richard and friends. You certainly pick your moments, don't you? A great day.
It is a great day. Somebody just said to me, grabbed my hand and said, let's go to a casino. I just want to hold on to your hand and go and put £1 million on red. No, I mean, it was a magnificent, just a magnificent Grand Prix. And I'm not biased, having not going number 1 and number 2. No, it was an exciting Grand Prix. Brilliant engineer in Brawn. I mean, that was the person we were really investing in. 2 great drivers who delivered. And a great start to the season. Yeah, pretty damn good.
It's no secret that the team want more money from you. They always do. Now that they're looking like they are winners and possibly even championship contenders, are you going to give it to them?
Well, I sort of watch this space. I mean, we're at the moment we're just sponsors, you know, one day Virgin might name a team after Virgin. So we'll see. And I'm sure we'll have some discussions. They've certainly got me addicted to the sport today, and so it's a good time. It would be a good time to sit me down and have a word, I think.
Yes, I'm sure they will. Nick Fry doesn't turn up opportunities like that very often.
You should just keep on plying us with champagne and having these gorgeous Virgin girls put on either side of me, and you never know what might happen. But no, and on a serious note, they deserve supporting. I mean, this car only 6 weeks ago looked like it was never going to race. It looked like, you know, all the people that worked for the Honda team were going to be out of work. We would never have known what a brilliant car it was. And so it was great to be, part of the team in rescuing the team, and we hope that Virgin will be part of it going forward.
I'm sure they will be. Where did you watch the last few laps of the race? How are you on fingernails, and what was the scene where you were watching?
I was watching it with my daughter in the pit. And I mean, I was just watching Barrichello battle his way up from that dreadful start where somebody crashed into the side of him, and he'd lost his, he had to have his wing replaced, his front end replaced, and was right back up at number 4th, but quite likely would have got it on the podium when the cars ahead collided. So, you shouldn't cheer when 2 cars collide. It's not a very natural thing to do, but when you're actually supporting the person behind them, I'm afraid, I have to admit it, we did let out a yell.
Jolly good. Well done.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, no wonder he's smiling and laughing, Martin. Some people have all the luck, don't they?
Well, you make your own luck in life, don't you? And looks like he's got plenty of luck today. It's great for him, isn't it? I mean, he rocked up yesterday. They were still putting the stickers on the back of the garage over there, and 100 quid's worth of graphics on the car. He makes a press conference, cars go out, front row of the grid, and a 1-2 in the race. It's all downhill from there, isn't it?
Oh, maybe not, but a few stickers on the side of the car, that sounds to me like a pretty good investment, Eddie.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised. He's usually the best marketeer you could ever imagine, and to allow those 2 drivers to go to the podium without Virgin embedded on their overalls is quite a surprise. He doesn't usually miss little tricks like that, which he's entitled to do.
What did he say to you when you saw him straight after the race?
Well, he said to me, I'm not sure if it's the right thing to say because they're all there celebrating next door, but he said, is this the time to leave now? How can you beat that? And that's absolutely right, what Martin has said. You can never beat that. And in many respects, I just hope that is something that is just put to one side, because as Martin did say also, I think that it's downhill from here in some respects, because they will never have as good a day as they've just had. And maybe some of the pleasure or the anxiety or the real joy in this, they will forget that, and they will make sure that they do repeat this, because we all know what Ross Brawn is made of, and he will make a stunning car, team, whatever you like, and he'll be there. I would just like to say one thing before I finish, because the sensible money, the punter's money, was on me making some sort of a bad or a naughty word on your programme here, and I'm afraid I'm very grateful to
Richard
Branson for
Branson
doing
beat
that.
you to it, yeah. Someone's lost a lot of money on that. Yeah, well, obviously Richard Branson's relationship with Brawn has lasted so far all of one weekend. Rubens Barrichello's relationship with the team has lasted an awful lot longer than that. It was a hard winter for him, not knowing whether he'd even have a drive, but he has had a drive and he finished on the podium. We can now hear from him.
Rubens, Ross is kind of famed for building robust cars, and I think you did need it. Just talk us through the start and some of the events that happened in that first lap.
Well, I hit anti-stow on the start, which is a neutral, so it's not in gear. For some reason, I think there's a technical problem in there. Then when I got going, it was too late. I've made up on the braking on the inside of a car. I mean, I can remember because of things with the sun on our eyes at 5 o'clock was a tough start. But I made it. I made it really nice. All of a sudden, I felt a big bang on the back. I went sideways, hit the car sideways. I don't know who was it, and I'm sorry for that. But he must talk to the McLaren guy, not me. And with that, then I waved the car to see if the car was okay. And although I had a turbo understeer on the car, it was the car was going straight. So I've asked the team if they could see on the TV if it was one piece, if I had noses and everything, and they said it was. So I carry on a difficult first stint, but then you know, they changed the nose and the car became better.
Just finally, after the past couple of years, a winter of uncertainty, just what does this exactly mean to you?
You know, it is a relief, but at the same time, I've always been prepared for this. I don't want it to sound arrogant or anything, but it's in life. I think you need to be positive and right from when the circle come towards you. And you know, the last years we had to be content to finish 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever. And but I've been improving as a driver, and so I want to use this right now with a perfect car, with a very, very good team, with a great engine, and with the support. So I want to use this to my benefit and try to get to the top quickly.
Rubens.
Well, Eddie, how big a reward is today for Rubens Barrichello, not just for his years in the sport, but sticking with Honda and with Brawn when it didn't look good?
Rubens Barrichello is one of the great teammates and team players. Spent 4 years from age of 19 to 23 with Jordan, and he got us our first ever podium. In fact, he was Martin's teammate, and he was a very solid. He was never one. Could I ever see him win a world title? Maybe in this car, but it would have to be something very special. I think he was at a time in Ferrari where he was probably very much second player against Michael Schumacher, but then there was a lot of other drivers who were in that position. Do I see him being at the very front? I think he's a perfect teammate for Jenson. If Jenson is going to make a real bid for the championship, he couldn't ever ask for somebody better than Rubens. He's very fair, he's very honest. You've seen in the interview, he's the proper team player.
Yeah, you say that, but I think you're forgetting that he actually finished in front of Jenson in the championship last year, so I wouldn't play his potential down. And ultimately, if they have the car of the season, then he only has to beat his teammate. So I think it's going to be one of the comparisons of the year to just watch how that unfolds.
Right. We've had a whole host of emails coming in. Thank you very much if you've emailed f1@bbc.co.uk. Let's go with this one, actually. This is relevant. Tom Maxted says, why was Barrichello not punished for his appalling driving at the start of the Grand Prix? If that had been Lewis last year, he'd have been in the pits doing a drive-through by the next lap.
Well, what's absolutely clear now we've seen more footage is it wasn't Rubens' fault at all. And the stewards would have had a look at that and seen that, in fact, the guy who took most damage out of that, Kovalainen, was the man who started it, wasn't it? He actually lost his front wheel and first retirement of the race. It wasn't his fault. Into the side of the Ferrari, driving error, lost the back of the car. Yeah, well, they seem to have tamed the penalties down a little bit this year, which is overall pretty good news, I'd say.
Well, Martin is spot on. The first one, when you see it first time round, you do think it's Rubens who has caused it, but that's not the case. I'd be more critical of the move later on in the race, and what a lucky boy he is to have that nose cone stay on that car. I have never seen impact like that without such a high nose cone, so big, much wider this year, it would normally fly off. This boy, he'll thank his lucky stars when he goes to bed tonight.
Again, I wonder if that's something down to the Brawn design. If you actually look at the nose of the Brawn car, it's much fatter than any of the other noses out there, which means that the actual supports that hold the wing in place have a lot more angle to actually support the weight of that wing.
Bigger
so,
base.
you know, he just lost the wing end plate, or the little aerodynamic part of the wing end plate. So he was a lucky boy in that situation.
It's a big smack though, Martin, wasn't it? I thought, for me, it was a collision. It wasn't just a little tip. Certainly the second one, he used him as a brake, and he got away with it. But I think he was lucky. In my opinion, I'll have another look at the front wing, but I think he was lucky.
Yeah, well,
But I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been called in for a drive-through penalty on the second one. I have to agree with you.
Okay, let's quickly hear from the race winner today, Jenson Button.
Jenson, congratulations.
I am pleased to see you.
Race winner, thank you very much. After the winter, the roller coaster of emotions you've had, just explain how it feels today to be standing up in that top spot of the podium.
Well, it's like yesterday, but times by 100. You know, it's been a good day, and you think that in front it's easy, but it's not. You know, it was still a tough race for me, but we came away with a victory, and I've got to say congratulations to everyone involved. You know, we've had it tough. And I know I keep saying it, but it's the truth, and we deserve this, so hopefully this is first of many.
And in the race, the pressure was kept on you with the safety car coming out.
I know, it would have been such an easy race. A lot easier anyway, but it was tough, you know, and I really struggled to get heat in the tyres. I think we're running the car quite low. So I was hitting the ground when the restart came, so I flat spotted the front left, and it was square after that. So with the dim light and the vibrations, I couldn't see anything when I was driving around. Especially couldn't see my pit board, so I didn't know how quick I was going. But it was a good race. But you know, it wasn't perfect race, but we still came away with the win, and that's what you've got to just take all the points when you can, especially at this point of season.
In what way wasn't it perfect? What can you still improve on?
Well, you know, I think one of the issues was obviously the tyre temp in the restarts. It is quite cool here, so that is an issue. And I made a mistake in the second pit stop. So there's still room for improvement, but we're not going to think about that right now. We're gonna think about enjoying this moment, and I'm sure there's a lot of telephone calls being made back home by people working in the team to their families. But I got to say thank you to everyone in the team and their families for putting up with us lot over the winter, because I'm sure we've been very grumpy.
You must be delighted. It's only 7 days to Malaysia.
It's wicked. I can't wait. You know, I can't wait. Obviously, going to enjoy myself tonight a little bit, not too much, and then I'm off to Malaysia. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Jenson, tell us about the...
Well, I'm sure there'll be some party for Jenson Button tonight. Well done getting to the front of that crush, because I imagine if there was one place to be after the race, it was talking to Jenson Button.
It was a fantastic day, a fantastic result for Jenson. He was just delighted. You can see every time he was desperate to talk to us, which doesn't always happen. You know, it was the perfect ending to our first show.
And Ted, a busy day for you in the pits there. Cars coming in left, right and centre, cars missing their box.
Yeah,
you
no,
saw it
busy
all.
day. But the story for me, Jake, is that BMW. BMW saying that we believe Kubica had the pace to win the race. Mario Tyson absolutely convinced that Kubica was going to win the race. So, you know, Brawn might be celebrating tonight, and they are, and as, you know, the Who rings out, and they're all very happy over there. But BMW are going to push them very hard, and I'm going to put 5 bob on Kubica for Malaysia.
But if there's one man not going to rest on his laurels, though, it's going to be Ross Brawn, isn't it?
He knows as well as anybody just how hard it is to win a world championship, better than anybody else, really. So, yeah, I'm sure they're packing the swords away at headquarters at Honda, so that they're not falling on them after dismissing that team, and then it goes and gets a 1-2. But Ross knows what they've got to do there. And it is interesting, as Ted says, that there's some serious competition. Ferrari looks strong, Kubica's BMW anyway, and Red Bull look like they've got a good car. It's going to be a great season.
Sorry, Martin, I'd like to put Toyota into that mix, because what truly did today from the pit was one of actually the drives of the day. And we haven't mentioned him, and I think it's a worthy mention, because he was very strong in my view.
OK, well, before we disappear from the F1 Forum, here's a quick confirmation of the way that the race finished today. And while you take a look at that, we'll ask the guys to sum up today. DC, how would you surmise the first race of 2009?
I was trying to keep up. You know, it's one thing being out there on track, but to try and follow all the action and incidents that were going on, it was a very exciting start, and delighted to see a British driver standing there on top of the podium.
And we've talked about the timing of F1 returning to the BBC. Your timing's not bad either, EJ. You come back to F1 after 4 years, and look at the fun you bring with you.
Yeah, another Lazarus move here. But no, there was good moves. We talked about Trulli. We talked some great drives. I must say I enjoyed Vettel as a breath of fresh air. What he achieved last year was carried on. The momentum is there. And we talked about contenders, and you mentioned BMW. Do not write off Red Bull, and do so at your peril, because I think they are a strong team. They've got a strong engine, a strong driver lineup. Could be a fascinating season.
OK, and Martin, it's fantastic you were able to come and join us here on the BBC. And they talked about improving the show. They talked about changing the sport to make it better for the viewers at home. Do you think they've achieved that?
Perfect start to the year for Formula One. We did see some overtaking, whether it was KERS related or... They appeared to me to be able to follow a little bit more closely too, so all the signs are very good.
OK, a promising start to what could be a very promising season. Ted, Lee, gentlemen, thank you all very much indeed, and thank you for joining us for our first F1 Forum. We'll see you in 1 week's time in Kuala Lumpur. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm a one-way motorway. I'm a road that drives away and follows you back home. It's times like these you learn to live again. It's times like these you give and give again. It's times like these you learn to love again. It's times like these, time again.